Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and check it out, I've got a package. This comes from France, and believe it or not, inside is a brand new Sega Dreamcast game. Kudos to France, because a lot of the brand new games are coming out of there lately, which is fucking awesome. So in case you're not aware, before we open this, the Sega Dreamcast, a console which is nearly 20 years old, my favorite console of all time, still gets brand new games every once in a while. I know I say that a lot, but it bears repeating, because there's always people like, wait, seriously? And it's true. But the games are never made by major companies. They're always made by independent developers and publishers. So not like Sega or anybody, but like, you know, guys who basically decide, hey, I'm going to make a game and I'm going to put it on the Dreamcast for X, Y, and Z reason. This game in particular is kind of a unique case, and you'll see in a minute when I open it. You know, let's just do that. Let's just go ahead and open it now. So inside, we have a couple of, okay, we have this random thing for Wii Fit U. I'm not really sure what that is, as well as, I'm not sure what this is, but it looks like Zelda artwork. I don't know, I'll open them later. But that's cool. I think they just threw that in as a bonus. I don't think that's supposed to come with it. But yeah, so what we have here is a new game called Breakers. Now this game is, to say the least, unique. Like I said, these games are always made by independent developers and publishers, never major companies. This one kind of is. This game came out 20 years ago. Actually 21, I think. 96, I think? The Neo Geo AES, Neo Geo CD, I believe Neo Geo MVS as well, had this game. That's what this is. Originally it was a fighting game for those platforms. So why did it suddenly get a Dreamcast release like 21 years later? Well, this one is complicated. Basically what happened is the Neo Geo CD has been replicated and emulated on the Sega Dreamcast for a long time. There's an emulator called Neo for All. I believe it was made by a guy named Chu, C-H-U-I. Now he made this emulator, I want to say, I remember it in high school. That was like 15, 16 years ago, so I think it's been around for a long time. Now, he, I think, stopped updating it quite some time ago, but it was at its final release, from what I remember, it was able to run most, if not all, games at least competently. So at some point, people started taking the games, and they took the emulator, and they put them on one disc, and they were basically making self-boot Neo Geo CD games for the Dreamcast. Now, technically, that's what this is. It's just in a fancier case and all that. At least that's how it comes off at first to a lot of people. But that's only partially true. So what happened in this case is that the company that made the game originally, a company called Visco, got together with Chu, I believe it is, or aka the guy who made Neo for All. They got together and they actually decided to do this officially. They got some cooperation with each other and they made this happen. So the emulator on this was actually improved and tweaked, specifically tailor-made for this particular game, which is really very cool and very odd. But hey, they did it. So I haven't played it yet. Obviously this copy is still sealed, but my understanding is this version is substantially better than the pirated versions that are floating around out there. It does raise an interesting debate, though, that could you just bring a whole bunch of new games to the Dreamcast by basically taking them from the Neo Geo CD library? I would say, in an official capacity, I would say probably not in most cases, because most games were made by SNK, and I kind of doubt they would be on board. But if Visco made any other games, it's very possible we'll see those. It does, like I said, it raises some debate, and you know, some people will be totally for it, other people will be totally against it. People being against it using the argument of like, well, these games aren't actually made for the Dreamcast. What you're essentially doing is using an emulator and charging us for it. I can see that being annoying to people, but at the same time, those games were never going to be built from the ground up for the Dreamcast anyway. Like, that was never going to happen. And I've been saying for a long time that I thought the Dreamcast independent scene needed fighting games. I always thought that was a great idea. Of course, I said it from a standpoint of ignorance, not understanding how fucking hard it is to produce fighting games, at least quality ones, for something like that. So this is kind of an interesting middle ground that they could try, because the Neo Geo CD is ripe with all sorts of great fighting games that have been collecting essentially dust to the mainstream. Not that Dreamcast is particularly mainstream anymore, but at least it has more of a following. At least, you know, at least refreshing it would have that effect. Than the Neo Geo hardware does typically. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how many of those could make it over, and if, you know, they're competently ported, they're, you know, take the additional steps like this one did, that would be really kind of cool just to see that happen in general. So this is kind of an interesting like way to test those waters. So that's cool. But obviously I haven't played it yet, so I don't know how well it actually performs. I'm looking forward to doing that. We'll do that in this video. But a couple other things to note. First, I got this for free as a review copy, so I'm just putting that out there. They sent this to me specifically for the purposes of this video. I did not pay for this. You guys you need to know that. And the other thing worth noting is that this particular copy, which you can see here on the front, very nice artwork on the back, as well as the spine, which is very cool. You know, I'm also going to try and open it up here if I can without scissors, because I didn't plan ahead properly. But the point I was making is that this particular version happens to be the Japanese artwork style. So you can open it up, and say, oh, that's so much nicer than I expected. The disc looks very, very nice. And it looks like the manual is reversible. So the manual, it looks like it has Japanese on one side and the American style on the other. Let me just try and get this out without wrecking it. That would be nice. These are not always the easiest things to get out of there. Okay, yep, got it. Okay, so this side is the American side, then you can flip it for the Japanese side so that it can match. And of course the Japanese version is actually in Japanese. That's impressive. And then the other side that looks like a North American style is fully in English. That's really cool. The disc artwork is obviously not reversible, and then the main case part is not reversible as well. But still, I didn't expect it to be like that. Actually, I'm going to leave it with the Japanese artwork out there because the back part is the Japanese art style. Anyway, the point I was making with all of that is there's actually 3 different versions of this. There's the full-on Japanese version of this, there's the North American version, and then there's the European artwork. Now, the difference is purely cosmetic. That's it. Like, the disc is region-free, it's the exact same data across all 3 versions. It really just boils down to which version do you like the most visually, and perhaps what's the cheapest and easiest one for you to get. As I recall, the Japanese artwork, this is what this one is, again, is available through Play Asia exclusively. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out. The other, the North American version, I believe, is exclusively sold through Video Games New York, which is a pretty cool store, by the way. I've been in there. I've actually seen the North American version of it. I'm not actually sure who sells the European version, but you could do that too if you want.
Alright, we are rolling here. So this is what you first see once you turn the game on, which is essentially part of what they changed. It says Josh Prod, which we'll talk about in a second, but I think normally that would be where the emulator intro would be. They obviously tweaked it for this, which makes sense. Like I said, they upgraded and modified it in numerous ways. Now, I should have mentioned Josh Prod more in the actual video when I was talking more. Josh Prod is the publisher of this game. I believe he was the one who was most responsible for, coordinating all of this and making it happen. He's also got a bunch of other releases coming up too, which I'm going to actually do another video on one of those as well later down the road. But yeah, so just wanted to make it clear that this is a Josh Prod project. Josh Project, maybe that wouldn't quite spell that, but you get the idea. Anyway, so as you can tell, I cut out some stuff, I cut out some menus and everything, but I left in the load times just so you guys can see, that's how that works. I have to note that I'm not the best at fighting games, and you'll be you'll be able to tell very soon. I love fighting games, I'm just not very good at them. But this game to me plays kind of like a Super Nintendo era fighting game. I don't know how else to put it. You kind of just have to play it to know exactly what I mean. It's kind of like a little like Street Fighter 2 in that sense. I mean, obviously it looks vaguely similar, but yeah, I don't know. It's more of the play style. It's just, it feels like I'm playing it on a Super Nintendo. Granted, the controller is obviously not the same. A few technical notes I'd like to put out there while we're doing this. One, this game does support the VGA mode, so it takes advantage of the additional benefits you get out of that with the Dreamcast, and cleans up pretty well. I recorded this through the VGA output using specifically the Akura, which is a little HDMI box for the Dreamcast. I've done a video on it as well, but technically it's just utilizing the VGA mode. Once I got it, from the HDMI output, I stuck it in the Hauppauge HD PVR2, and then that's it. I've got it up and running, and I think it looks fantastic. The image clarity is very strong, as would be expected, but it's more so just cool that the fact that the game actually supports the VGA mode. A few other things that people always ask about these type of Dreamcast games, like, you know, what's the deal? The game is region free. As I mentioned before, this will work on any Dreamcast. It doesn't matter which version of it you get. You know, you can, again, it all comes down to the aesthetics. The disc is completely region free. It supports, of course, the memory card and, you know, things like that. There's a lot of basic questions like that people always ask about Dreamcast games that are newer, because they always wonder, like, does it support these things? Yes, it does support those. The game, of course, is a mil CD, or it uses the mil CD exploit. It was, you know, of course, kind of made with, I mean, the emulator was made with that in mind. It's kind of interesting to see, you know, what the difference between that and, like, a traditionally made independent Dreamcast game would be, because it is fundamentally still a Neo Geo CD game, but I think it's basically fine from everything I understand about it. The game is, of course, pressed on a CD-ROM, in a factory, of course. So it's not a GD-ROM, so you'll be able to tell. However, I must say the disc art is very impressive. It looks very, very legitimate, and I think that's really very cool that they did that. But yeah, as you can see, I'm starting to get progressively worse here. So I thought I could just power through this and, like, go through it, but, like, this was literally my first playthrough ever of this game, and I wasn't that great at it. Like I said before, man, I'm not actually that good at fighting games. I like them a lot, but my strategy, as you can tell, is I tend to just, like, go high and just try to smack them in the head with my foot. And then I realized you can pause by pressing one of the trigger buttons. That's what happened there. But yeah, spoilers, yeah, I lose. I suck. What can I tell you? Now, obviously, I could get better at it if I kept playing it, but I just want to give you guys a quick taste of the game, just to kind of see what it's like, so you can check it out if you've, you know, wanted to get more fighting games, perhaps, for your Dreamcast. You now have that option against, again, thanks to Josh Prod and Visco and all the cooperation that went into that. So without, I guess that's kind of it. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Josh Prod for hooking me up with this for review purposes. And yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you very much, and have a good one.